Good morning. Good morning. How do you say this in Korean? I'm always trying to practice my Korean. Um, nope. Can't think of it, but 안녕하세요. Which is, are you peaceful? Good morning. Hello. Natural greeting. This is BB and Honey's. This is where I'm putting these now. I believe BB and Honey's Blessed Babies BB Reads, where I share my thoughts and insights on some of the books that I grab from my library grab and go. I'm trying not to say it too fast so that when the auto captions pick it up, they can pick it up correctly. But my library grab and go, as the books tend to be a blessing to me. I would love to share that blessing by sharing my insights and my thoughts and some things, and hopefully it'll encourage other people to pick up some books too and share whatever blessings or whatnot they get from them. To continue from last time, I definitely did some children's books. And I wanted to continue with that, but I also said that I would get some teen novels mixed in with that. And that's exactly what I did. I got some textual reads, like some textbooky kind of reads as well that I'll be talking about. But since they're obviously a lot more to read through, I'm trying to write notes and like make sure that I'm like pretty cohesive with my thoughts around those books. But that'll be a different one. We back again with some children's books, and one of the teen novels that I picked up. I have to say, like, the children's books are getting me. It was such a great idea, I think, for me to like do that in the first place, to just like, have the thought and be like, okay, I'm gonna get children's books and talk about the children's books that I read. But yeah, like, doing that has really been so fulfilling to me. Like, it's genuinely been a blessing, because like children's books kind of like really, especially the ones that I picked up this time around, which I'm gonna get to it, has been like, they just been touching me like right in the heart. Like, I'm like, it invigorates me to like want to write children's books, which I've always wanted to do, but it encourages me to do that. And just stories in general. Like, I'm just really finding like coming, like, I started this because I love to read, and because like, I read often, but I don't necessarily have like any notes or anything written down around the things that I read, but I wanted to kind of like document my reading journey, I guess. And yeah, like, I was like, yeah, like, I love to do it, so great. Like, this is gonna be amazing. But like, really, children's books have been like reinvigorating like the fulfillment that like I really feel when I read. Like, it's like, yes, like, I'm really excited and just like really like, wow. Like, I'm just really wow. So that's the preface, what we're gonna get into. So I'm gonna just get into it. Lemonade Code. This is a teen graphic novel. It's pretty new. It's new, which means I have to take it back soon. And this is by, let me get because the names are not on the front. And I want to make sure that I get this right. Okay, so Lemonade Code. It is written by Jarod, Pratt. I'm going to write these in the caption, so y'all will be able to see them. Illustrated and colored by Odin, or it'll be available within the caption for it to be like accessible and all those things. And lettered by Crank ! And this, I should say these things too. It was designed by Sarah Rockwell, edited by Robin Herrera and Shauna Gore, which means that like this baby went through a whole process in order to get into this graphic novel of a book. So to show some of the illustrations first, I always say, I think I said this last time, but I love graphic novels because, once again, they're pretty easy to read through. Obviously, depending on your reading level and, you know, your own pace, like your own kind of like reading constitution. That's the word that I'll use for that. They're fairly easy to like move through, you know, and I think they're like useful because obviously you get like the panels are like pictures that you can like actively see that help tell the story as well. So I feel like it kind of engages a lot of different mental processes to read through graphic novels. And I like the way that I guess it stimulates my brain because there's pictures and then there's words, and like obviously you're gonna get this in children's books too, but like within the graphic novel form, especially how it's illustrated and how the story is genuinely being thought to told, like it's like it can be very interesting. And I would say that this book was, I'm trying to still show some of the animation, but I wonder if it's blurry. We got Dr. Mom right there. Trying to see. Oh, let me show Robbie. I think he's right in the front. Yes. To give you a clear start of where the story is coming from. So yeah. This book, Lemonade Code, I'm wondering if I want to read off the back. Because I love this story so much that I'm like I can kind of go off the dome with it. But okay, so Robbie Reynolds, who I just showed, isn't just a genius. He's a super genius. But he doesn't have the cash to fund his ultimate and top secret project. That's why he's opening a lemonade stand. Not just any lemonade stand. This one is state of the art and has his automatista, can make you any flavor of lemonade your heart desires. Bacon salsa, potato salad, dirty diaper, anything you want. And literally they came up with some really funky ones within the story. And I was like, how could anybody even think of that as a flavor, and why would anyone want to try that? So that's adorable. But unfortunately, Robbie isn't the only one in the lemonade hustle. Daphne Dury, who you see right here, right? So this is Robbie. You got Robbie right here. Then you got Daphne Dury. His new across the street neighbor has her own setup going, and something about her lemonade is resonating with people in ways Robbie's can't. Before the week is over, Robbie and Daphne are in a full-on lemonade war, one that Robbie is quickly losing. Desperately, he tries to discover Daphne's secret recipe. Her lemonade is just lemonade, isn't it? There can't be some secret ingredient that compels people to buy it, can there? It wouldn't cause the end of the world if her lemonade fell into the wrong hands, would it? So, yeah, it was a dual war between the two because Daphne Dury has some lemonade that was clearly bumping and clearly like everybody loved, and you know, Robbie in his super genius ways wanted to kind of get in on this gimmicky lemonade stand in order to raise funds for his Take Over the World project that he does, which is not mentioned in the back, and I feel like it's such an important fact, and I feel like one of my favorite parts of the story that he does with his mom who he calls Dr. Mom, who is also a super genius evil scientist who is trying to also take over the world and finding, and she's refinding her passion in that through her child. And I thought that was like, I don't know what, like the storyline, the story setup, I really loved this book. I love the storytelling. I love how dramatic Robbie is because once again, he's a super genius who is so unbelievably smart, right? Unbelievably intellectual that you know, his goals, his mind is set up on being a super genius evil you know what I'm saying, take over the world kind of kid, and that he does this with his mom. Like I don't know, I thought that was really phenomenal to me. It was just like really phenomenal. Yeah, and how, like, you know, in his super genius, he creates this lemonade stand, and like literally this neighbor moves in, and like, you know, everybody's like kind of leaning into her lemonade because it's not gimmicky, right? It's just like really good lemonade. It's just lemonade. um Compared to Robbie's like funky, create whatever you want kind of infusion kind of lemonade. And so yeah, I really love this story. I'm trying to remember how to word like a very keen part of it without spoiling it, just in case someone else wants to read it. But they explain something within lemonade code, right? Robbie, like I said, he's a genius, and one of his genius abilities is to code. I don't know why this Instagram thing does this when I literally, like, what is this? But he codes. So he knows how to code. He's a coder, if you will, if you're familiar with that term. He does coding. I don't know if it can, just different ways of saying it may help. But yeah, he codes. He knows computer language, computer science, those kinds of things. And so in his attack to try to get back at, to try to lessen the competition of Daphne, right? In his super genius evil scientist ways, because that's what I was saying before, because he's so dramatic. He's just like, no, she's gonna take over the world with her lemonade if I don't, like, you know what I'm saying, do anything about it, right? Like, he's very dramatic about the whole process. And so that drama leads him to doing a whole world of things, and through coding, like, right, like, that's what I was also getting at, right? So he's a coder. But the way that they explain coding, something that I'm not necessarily familiar with at all, but how they explain coding through a project that also the mom has, and through Robbie's kind of like story, his arc, right? This arc of trying to get back at Daphne. They explain it in such a way that I thought was like so like, it was like, wow, I did not know that. I did not consider that. And so it has me looking at computers a lot different. It has me looking at software and these things a lot differently. I'm like, the fact that we can have such an interface on our phones, especially on our touch screens, where, you know what I'm saying, it does this and it does this. That software is ran by codes. And so like I said, Robbie is trying to figure out Daphne's code to her to her lemonade, compared to through his ability to code or whatever, through his kind of machinery and his projects that have been coded and created or whatever. He's trying to figure out Daphne's code, and as he gets involved in that process, they explain it in such a way that was like, this makes absolute sense, and just a wonderfully taught story. Like, a wonderfully, like, it's not heavily informational, but it does kind of like introduce a very new concept in a way that I felt like, if you have no idea what coding is, it explains it. It introduces it in a very cool way between the characters of Robbie and Daphne and Dr. Mom. So I would definitely, I'm realizing my rating system is like, let me say this, like, a book that like was great or cool to read, but like, not necessarily something that I would keep around or want to reread again, would be a book that I wouldn't put on my shelf, but a book that I really love and consider like close and dear and like a genuine blessing to me, at least. I would keep it on the shelf. So like, it's not necessarily as binary as that, but this is a book that I would have on the shelf for sure. For the sure. I will reread this a million times. I will reread it with other people. I genuinely love this book. I cannot advocate for this book enough. I'm like literally ready to shove this book in somebody else's face. So I'm like, read this. I love it. If you're into graphic novels, even if you're not, like, try it out, read it. See See if you like anything about it. Take your time with it. Do it at your own pace, but read it. Did I say everything that I wanted to say about this? I think I did. It does give a, you know, I say this every time. And of course, the author and the illustrator. Oh, I didn't say this, but the author is from Detroit. So that has some significance to me. So, you know, the author is from Detroit, Michigan. Jarod, I don't know if it's Jarod or Jarod. Jarod. Riss, I think. RHYS. Pratt. Pratt. Once again, I'm gonna write it in the caption so that it's accessible. But yes, and J. Odin. I'm not sure where J. Odin. Oh, he lives in Georgia. But you know, I say this every time. I love when a book includes a really good recipe at the end. It's like just a cute nod to what, like, that the book comes from like a real place, right? Even though these characters may be made up and like the storyline may be something that was imagined and created. I love when it has like recipes in the back to like bring it back to earth, right? Bring it back to the fact that we live outside of the stories and within the stories themselves too. And it has a great creators interview in the back, the start of it at least, that I like to hear that. I like to see those things because I like to know who writes what, you know, we write. Stories are inherently political. Political. I don't know why my voice went out on that, but political. And so it's important to know who writes what we read, because then, and I'm learning that, I'm relearning that and being more attentive to that. It's important that we learn who writes what we read, because that informs the story as well. But moving on, so I'm not here all day. We got a few more. Another, and this is by Christian Robinson. I'm gonna try to oops, I'm trying not to slide off my chair. So it's kind of glossy, so this video, no, it's doing me bold today. Hold on, I'm gonna see. Okay, and come back in if it'll not do what it's doing. But yes, another. If it does, we're just gonna have to keep tapping it. But yes, cute little baby on the front. I really like the animation of this story. I didn't say this, but I really like the animation of Lemonade Code as well, because it was cute. It told the story really well. But yes, another. This animation is really funky cool. I can't remember. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Little Bill. Yeah, just a tad bit. But I don't know where I've seen this animation style before, but I really do like it. This book does not have any words in it, so it's not it's strictly a picture book, which I didn't notice when I got it, but it was fine. That was fine for me, because it was like, okay, you know, be more attentive to the pictures. This is a perfect opportunity, I think, that if you're reading, even if you're just reading by yourself, right, like, it's the perfect opportunity to be more attentive to what's going on, to start naming, like, what do you see, right? So, like, there's a child, however you want to name it, there's a black cat. This is a good opportunity to do this. I do like that most of the pages were like this black color because I think it told the story well. But yeah, no, this is still doing this, so we're gonna have to rock with it. Beautiful stuff. I'm hearing the birds. But yeah, strictly pictures. And so, I don't know if it was like very noticeable when I was showing it, but just to give more information, Then what you see a child, or give more information as to what this book is about. It may be a little hard to see, and it may not be possible to see some folks. But this is a book about, let me just read the thing. What if you encountered another perspective, discovered another world, met another you? What might you do? And I have to say, when I read this, so essentially there's this child, right? And when I was showing the picture, she was sleeping in the bed. But this world opened up, and she goes into this world and kind of like has this entire experience, meets a different version of herself, which let me see if I can find a picture of that, which I thought was like, they did this so well. This is why I kind of appreciated this. I really appreciated this picture book, because it told the story quite well. So like, you know, there's this one version of her, she has like the red Saturn on her shirt, and then this version who has the blue Saturn, and then like her cat has like the blue collar. So I thought that was like, they, even though it was strictly pictures and not words, I thought they did an amazing job with like telling the story within the pictures, and providing like, you know, like what is going on here. Like providing some imagery that was like, that if you really took the time out to like try to explain, and try to write words around, or try to think about or acknowledge as real as part of the story, like you begin to kind of like, it gives you kind of the juice to tell the story and how you see it. And so I really thought that was cool. It was giving me, if you've seen Coraline, you've seen the movie Coraline, it was giving me Coraline vibes, like at the very beginning, when it was like the door just opened up, and, you know, Shawty woke up and was like, hey, like, and just went into it. It was giving me Coraline vibes. And then just kind of the aspect of like meeting the different self gave me Us vibes, like the movie Us by directed by Jordan Peele, and all of, yeah, that book. I gotta know who actually worked on that movie in full totality. So another, I'm gonna try this one more time. Alright, hopefully I had to, maybe if I just turn the thing off. Okay. But yeah, another, did I say about, oh yeah, Christian Robinson. I think it's a great book, right? Like, I think it's a really cool book. I would have it on the shelf just as something to kind of like pull out and like read in your spare time, if you just want to kind of like flip through some pages, if you just want to move through the practice of reading, right? Or if you want to move through the practice of imaginative storytelling or prompted storytelling, right? So like if you or someone else, or you're reading this with someone else, or looking through this with someone else, right, you can start to like put the words together yourself. Maybe you yourself can try to like write the story, right? Write the words to the story, and do that with other people, and compare and contrast like what you've come up with. And I think that would be a really great activity, right? Like, cool stuff. Another, so yeah, I would have this on my shelf. Not that when I thought about that activity, I'm like, yeah, I would have this on my shelf. That would be cool for myself to do. I've been really working on, or really thinking about, which stories with which children's books are helping me reconsider as well. Like, I've really been thinking about storytelling and folklore, and just really really how they hold so many messages and so many like understandings for understandings for ourselves. Like, they can really showcase particular values or particular ideas or thoughts or theories. And I just, yeah, storytelling is amazing. as a cultural practice in the ways that we story tell, across and moving through cultures. I'm gonna actually do this one first. How we do this, moving in and out of, moving through and with growing culture as a dynamic, right? Right, shifts. Stories can shift our understanding of the world around us. Stories can tell us and inform our view and consideration of the world around us, especially the stories that we grew up listening to, the stories that we heard like within our home, the stories that we heard within school. All of those things is so fun to consider. And then like to come back to children's books, like I said before, that really prime for certain stories to be told and built upon. It's like the right children's book can be so integral and so amazing in being able to for us to critically utilize language and critically storytell, you know. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel teal. I feel teal. This is by Rille and Aimée Sicuro. So let me see. You know, it's a glare, and then the phone is glaring. So, but let me see if that's a little bit better. But I have to put it at an angle. But I feel teal. Magenta, blue, lilac, teal. What color do you feel? So this book is pretty straightforward, right? If not hinted from that little bit of information, if the context can't be pulled from there, I will go on to explain that it is a book that speaks to the fact that different colors, kind of utilizing different colors, right, to express a certain feeling, right? And so I thought that this was really cool because they didn't just go over like really basic colors. It was like, you're jade, right? And so like how jade can then express a certain feeling or convey a certain emotion. Let's see. You're scarlet. Just a little bit. I ain't gonna read the whole thing because I don't want to get copywritten at all. But right, so scarlet can mean a bunch of different things. But right, like they're trying to convey through emotion. Convey emotion through naming, right, a color, like for themselves, right? Mauve and purpley too. So, right, this is kind of one of those great examples where I say, know who writes the story. Know who writes the story, because granted, this is from this person's perspective, what these colors would feel like, even though that there are certain things like color theory that exist, where, like, you know, colors do exemplify a certain emotion. They do convey a certain emotional center or expression. And so, and that's not to say that it is, like, to call it a theory is to say that it is inherently wrong. But, like, you know, we do have to understand that also that the naming and understanding of emotions connected to color can also not come from it can come from a just like the most basic example that I can think of is like, okay, pink is conveyed as a very like feminine color, right? And this is not necessarily connected to emotions themselves, but like feminine is kind of like a quality to have, right? A quality that can be embodied and expressed in all of these things, while blue is considered, you know, but that comes from a cultural reference of how we view and think of bodies and think of people and all of these different kinds of things, and how we think of character traits, and that comes from a history of certain things. So like that can inform the way that we understand color as well. That's a lot of complicated things. But that can inform how we understand color, and how we work with colors, and how we, connect with colors, especially how we convey feeling. But this is not to say that Lauren Rille or Aimée Sicuro are wrong about kind of the expressions and the emotions that they feel with certain colors. They are not wrong about that. But I think that this is also a really good point, because you can start to work with yourself. I love utilizing watercolors, and I like kind of like water markers. But you can like use any kind of like colorful medium, paint, finger paint, chalk. I'm trying to think of something else. Dye, if you like to utilize that too. Crayons, colored pencils, all of the colorful mediums, right? And you can kind of take it upon yourself to create an exercise where you pick a color, or you pick a multitude of colors, or you just kind of sit there and like name and think about your feelings, or try to understand your feelings, and kind of gravitate towards certain colors, and like paint it out, write it out. You can even utilize, if you're someone who just likes to write instead and doesn't feel like, okay, I have a creative bone in my body, you can utilize colored pens. Like, I love colored pens to like write with. So utilize colored pens and, just scribble over a page, if you will, and, of whatever your emotions or you feel in that moment. And try to see if, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel this red scribbly mess on this white sheet of paper. Like, that's very informative too. So I do like the fact that this can open up an exercise or a way of conveying emotions between, like, through your interpersonal relationships, right? If you have an understanding, you can kind of connect with your people and be like, listen, today I'm feeling mad purple. I'm feeling mad green. If that will help you to convey your emotions a lot easier, utilize color. I love that this book, at least once again, introduces that, right? Like, that maybe sometimes we don't necessarily have the words, but colors can help us to name that a lot more clearly. Maybe for ourselves, and then eventually to others. But right, and I think that something else that I love that this book kind of brings the concept forward of is that, like, there are not, because they didn't just use like very basic colors that we know, like they utilize colors like jade, scarlet, tangerine, right? That it's a spectrum, right? And that we all hold a spectrum of emotions, right? Like that it's not so finite. Like, sometimes it is. Like, sometimes when you mad, you clearly mad. Sometimes when you sad, you clearly sad. Sometimes when you're happy, you clearly happy. But that can also exist within a spectrum, and it can combine sometimes, right? And create new colors and all of those things. And so I feel like it at least introduces this concept that I feel like we all really do need to understand a lot more, is that we each hold a complex array, a palette, if you will, of all kinds of different emotions. And I've been reading and thinking a lot about and I saw this video that talked about how to regulate emotions. So I'm not going to get into that completely, but that dysregulation sometimes, when, like, you know what I'm saying, you're in an emotional state, and a certain stimuli, a certain situation may come up that evokes a particular emotion, that kind of thing is considered dysregulation, right? If you kind of like move too far into the extreme of that certain emotion, let's say that. But dysregulation in itself is normal. It's healthy, because it is healthy to ebb and flow into this wide array of emotional goop that we have, to kind of explore ourselves as humans, right? To explore ourselves in the fullness of what we can experience, right? So it's healthy to move through that, but it's in it, and it's also healthy to like learn and work with that so that we can, you know what I'm saying, we can be great humans out here, to say it very simply, to accept the fullness of our humanity and that greatness. So yeah, I like that it introduces this color to a quiet ecru. I was like, oh wow, I do love my nudes. They do bring a certain feeling into the room. But yeah, I did like this book as well, just because I did start thinking about color theory, and I think as my mom, and as I come from a family that really likes to do like homework, like home renovations and stuff like that, like they like to work on homes a lot, and my mom is very particular about interior design. I'm like, I think about the feng shui of a room, if you will, and like how rooms can convey a certain, like how you decorate a room, like the color of a room, all of these things, the items, the color of the items in the room, the whole thing of it can evoke a certain emotion or bring a certain emotion forward. Yeah, and I love that concept. Like I love that concept a lot. So I feel like this book can really encourage just the connection of emotion and colors, and being able to convey your emotions through colors, and help you understand your emotions through connecting with colors in this way. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. I think so. Sometimes I also think a lot about, I started to work with like a color of the week. I was doing this for a second. It didn't necessarily fall off, but it needed some space because I'm still learning, right? And so I have colored candles. I have colored, like I would create colored water through like watercolor paint or like watercolor markers. And I would like place this colored water, or like this candle. I would like this colored candle, and I would let that color speak to me for the week, right? And in that, would I learn about like kind of what this color can maybe evoke for me and what it can bring into my life, and it's expansive, it's mad expansive. But I think journaling around that has really helped me to understand like the emotions the emotions of myself, and the emotions of other people, and the emotions of just kind of like of life, really. So all of that around colors, and all of that around just like really, I think the beauty of utilizing and having and knowing and seeing color, if you are able to, and how we can connect that, and how we can work with that in our personal lives. I feel teal. Enough about that. Okay, last one, because I'm running my mouth. Poetree. Did I say that I like the animation of this? Oh, I didn't say. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did. It was very, like, I feel like the colors was like the most important part of it, right? And it was pretty simple for the characters. And I really like I like the font that this was in. I think like it's underrated when the font of a book matches really well with the book's context. I really did like it. I would definitely have this on the shelf because it has many ideas that can get spurred from this book. Poetry. Back to poetry. Written by Shauna LaVoy Reynolds, illustrated by Shahrzad Maydani. Putting this here. New friends, like the perfect rhyme, are found in unexpected places. So, yeah, let's just read it from the thing. Sylvia, our friend Sylvia here, loves poetry, She loves sharing poems with her dog, Shell, which you also can view right on the cover page that I'm showing, even though it's a little blurry. With the birds in the park, and even with her favorite tree. But you also see the favorite tree in the corner as I'm showing it. It's in the corner of the book, on the edge of the book, the spine of the book. gotta know book anatomy, I guess, right? But imagine her surprise when the poetry writes back. Let me read that again so that I can say it clearly. But imagine her surprise when the poetry writes back. Lyrically written and gorgeously illustrated, this celebration of finding beauty in the world and new friends in unlikely places is sure to delight readers young and old. And I have to say, it totally did that, because I think this was the book that I cried on. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just a beautifully written story. The animation is like, the illustration is just very soft and nostalgic. Not even just nostalgic, it's just soft and like calming, and it's like everything feels at peace within this story. Yeah, look at this. Just, there's some really beautiful elements within it. And then even just like word placement, like where the story, like, okay, right, you see Sylvia walking, so like you have the words here, and then like here, here, right? Like it just kind of tells the story really nicely too. And then there's like poetry in here. And so Sylvia is writing, like within this page, she's writing a poem to the tree, which is right here, and she's tying it to the tree. Because once again, Sylvia loves poetry so much. So much. And, and the next day, she goes back and she finds that the tree wrote her back. Now that was enough for me, because I'm like, this is so sweet. Like, it's such the little joy that Sylvia felt. And I feel like that, because I like to do the nature trail a lot, and I really do feel very calming, feel very calmed from trees, even though sometimes they be creaking. You pay attention to trees more often, they be creaking, and especially if they're tall and it's windy, they will get to moving, and like you can hear them, and it can sound quite terrifying even though they're quite beautiful and quite lovely and quite warming to me. But I love to walk within like I said, the nature trails, and walk amongst the trees or whatever, and just like I really do feel calmed by them. And so kind of like Sylvia receiving this letter back from the tree, I was like, it was giving a little bit of a giving tree, as well as, it was giving a little bit of giving tree, but just kind of in this particular way of poetry, which Sylvia loves. So yeah, like she loves poetry so much, they're writing it in class. And there's like, I don't know if it's noticeable within this picture, but there's a student who is wearing a shirt that says Rumi, which is a pretty famous Persian poet. And so I thought that was like very cute to nod to. Like I thought that was very cute to nod to. And I don't know if the illustrator kind of did that themselves, or if Shauna did that, but the writer, the author. But yeah, there's even like a section of how to write a haiku. And it's just kind of put into the story, just, as Sylvia's in class and they're working on poetry in class. But I thought that was even like super adorable. I'm like, yes. So definitely gives you instructions on how to do that. And I would encourage to try to write a haiku. I will actually try to write a haiku and put it in the comments if I actually succeed at doing it. But the haiku that is written in here from Sylvia, it's just amazing. I kind of want to read it. White birch on the hill speaks out loud through rustling leaves, great green poetry. And right there's it's haikus are very short poems, but I felt like Sylvia's poetry haiku was like, I was like, wow, Sylvia's spitting. Sylvia's spitting, but you know, Sylvia got a hater. Sylvia has haters. So she continues to just talk to the tree and to share poems with the tree. And to her surprise, and it's just such a great story. Like, she really goes to this park and she has beautiful conversations with this tree. And I just, like, once again, I relate to that. I relate to Sylvia because I'm just like, yes, I know, like, how they're making you feel. And so, yeah, it was just really heartwarming to know that someone was getting that love and that attention and that care from just being amongst the trees, right? And so to her act of going to the tree, right? And the tree writing back to her. There's even, oh my gosh, like literally Sylvia's hugging the tree in one of the scenes, and I'm just like, this book really made me cry because I was like, this is so beautiful. If it's not said already, I would have this book on my shelf and pull it out a million times. But yeah, she goes back and forth to the tree. The tree is writing her letters back and she's reading them. She finds that a stranger has been writing these notes back to her. But even in the midst of, like, as she finds this out, they both kind of come to an understanding that this space, like, they were taking the notes from each other, right? Like, they were responding to one another and believing that it was a tree. But even though, which is something that I take from this, and once again, beautiful storytelling, right? Even though it wasn't technically the tree that was writing the notes, the tree gave, like, the tree was giving. Like, the tree was still a part of, the tree was still helpful. The tree was still an active character in bringing Sylvia closer to her poetry. There's a lot going on. But yeah, so yeah, I'm hearing a lot of noises. But the tree was an active character into bringing, there's so many noises going on, like right at this exact moment. I don't know if the AirPods are picking them up, but yeah, the tree was an active character and bringing Sylvia closer to poetry and bringing Sylvia closer to warmth and care and, like, just all of those things. And so even though the tree themselves wasn't writing the notes, the tree themselves were still active and doing what they had to do to bring Sylvia closer with another fellow human that feels the same love and care from the tree. So I just, like, beautifully written story. A++++. Would definitely read it. Would definitely read it a few times. Even though I gave the entire storyline, the story is so beautifully written that, like, I feel like I really didn't give anything away. So yeah, I'm trying to make sure that's all I want to say about this. Definitely read it. Would have it on the shelf. I think this ends. I think we're ending here because we are done. I have a few more children's books, but we'll do this in a different setting because I am hungry at this point and I actually didn't read those yet, so it would be no point. But until next time, you all,